Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk with Carl E. Long. This is your boy Carl E. Long right here. How is everybody doing? Hope you're having an awesome day or night, or whatever time it is you're listening to this podcast. I am here again for my next episode 30. Believe it or not, episode 30. So glad to be here. And I was just sitting here, I do most of my recording for my podcast in the middle of the night. Sometimes I start at 10:30, 11, late, quiet in the night so I can think. But putting a podcast together is no joke, guys, especially if you're doing things where I'm creating clips and B-rolls. It can be quite daunting and a lot of work, but I am enjoying every bit of it. So I hope that you are enjoying the podcast as well. If you're brand new, I'm so glad. If you're not a first time, if you're a first time listener, please go ahead and follow me. I've had some great things coming up on this year's season 1 of Let's Talk with Carl E. Long. Well, today, guys, I know there's a lot been going on in the news, and you probably would have to be a rock to not know what's going on. But believe it or not, there are some people who don't know any of this stuff. Believe it or not, there are some people who have just tuned it out and have no idea what is going on behind the scenes. So today's podcast title is The Cover-Up, SignalGate, What They Are Not Telling You. SignalGate. So I know that you have to be listening to the news and know about what's going on with the Signal app and the leak of the information in the whole bit. But we'll get into that in a minute. But I wanted to talk about first what this whole Trump administration has meant to this country and what it's doing to this country right now. We don't want to talk about the real issue. You can put all this politics and economics behind it, but the real issue, guys, that is the talking point that every podcaster needs to cover, every conversation needs to be had, is about white fear. Yeah, and a lot of the people that come at me, they don't like when I say that. They think I'm being racist, but it's the truth. It's white fear. Our white American brothers and sisters have always afforded of being the majority, and they have pretty much run everything. Guys, just think about all the things that we couldn't do as a people. I'm not talking about just black people, any people. If it wasn't white, it wasn't it. I mean, look at television. If anybody of color or TV or movies was in anything, we were in these subservient roles or whatever. Just look at everything that has happened. And they have had a grip on everything for many, many years. So now, because there were so many people that fought hard, particularly black Americans fought hard to get equality, and people are starting to think about working together in harmony and making things right, they're just not having it. They just not having it. They are afraid of becoming a minority. So I went ahead and went to my ChatGPT, which is my friend. I love ChatGPT. I do. It's such a wealth of information to ask questions. And sometimes it is behind, but you can always ask it. This is a little tip for you. If you get old information from ChatGPT, like I was asking about the 4 black women that have won Album of the Year. There's only 4. And they didn't include Beyonce's album in there because it just happened this year. So I just told it, give me the most current information. It went there and got it. So you have to know how to work it because the engine is kind of done differently. But so far it's been quite helpful and factual information. And you always get sources so you can always check things out. So these are the stats, guys, of what is going on with white Americans and why they are in such fear of becoming a minority. So, as of the most recent U.S. Census data, white Americans still make up the majority of the population. However, the country is becoming increasingly diverse, according to the 2020 U.S. Census. That's 2020. in 2025 right now. All right. So white, non-Hispanic whites. Sometimes they count Hispanics in white, but this is white, just purely non-Hispanic. They make up 57.8% of the total population. That's just a little bit over half, right? Hispanic and Latinos of any race, they make up 18.7%. Those are Latinos of any race. You can get your Spaniards, you can get your Venezuelans, you can get your Dominicans. This is anybody that is of Latino heritage. Black or African American, 12.4% of the population. Asians make up 6%. Two or more races, 10.2%. Isn't that something? Biracial people are becoming their own thing. Isn't that something? 10.2%. There are more biracial people in this country than Asian. Native American, Alaska Native, they are 0.7%. And then Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander, they're 0.2%. While non-Hispanic white Americans are still the largest racial ethnic group, minorities, when combined, now make up a growing share of the population. Some projections suggest that the U.S. could become a majority minority country by 2040, meaning that all racial and ethnic minority groups combined would outnumber non-Hispanic whites. These are pure white, no Hispanics in that group. So, to me, that's the conversation right there. That is why they are saying that nobody's remembering them, everybody's forgetting about them, and the whole bit. The rural people said they're thinking that people of color are getting preferential treatment, and I guess I can understand that because we've been fighting so hard and so forward that white Americans are kind of left in the background. But do I have sympathy for that? Not really. No, not really. I don't. But I understand they need a voice and they need to be able to speak up. But you created this thing. You created this separatist country. And I'm kind of not sorry that you're having to feel a little bit in the minority and feel what it feels like to be disenfranchised. Now you know. Okay, that's my thought on that. So keeping that same thought, and part of the reason is a lot of this, they're saying that people of color are getting more preferential treatment on things. But let me just give you some stats on the poverty level of what this really is. So by ethnic groups, what percentage of people live below the poverty level? As of 2023, the poverty level rate in the United States varied significantly across different racial and ethnic groups. Black or African American, we're 17.9% below poverty level. Hispanics make up 16.9%. American Indian and Alaska Native, 25%. White and non-Hispanic, 8.6%. That's poverty level. So you're still doing quite all right. Do you see that? Asian is 8.6%. These disparities highlight ongoing economic inequalities among different communities in the U.S. And y'all can call it whatever you want to, but things were not fair. There were laws that kept a lot of us from doing anything. And it's not that, it's important to note that these figures represent national averages. Poverty rates can vary based on factors such as geographic location, educational attainment, or employment opportunities. Now, efforts to address these disparities include policy initiatives, improving access to education, and all those things. This is where DEI came in. Now, I also asked the question, what is the one who receives the most government assistance, like food stamps and other services? A lot of people think it's blacks, and no, it's not. Government assistance programs in the United States, such as Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, Medicaid, and Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, TANF. As of 2023, approximately 41.9 million people in 22.2 million households received SNAP benefits, accounting for 12.5% of the U.S. population. The racial and ethnic composition of SNAP participants includes white, 37%. You get it the most. Black or African American, 26%. Hispanic and Latino 16%, Asian 3%, Native American 2%. Notably, around 16% of participants are categorized as race unknown. Okay? Medicaid, let's see, whites 40%, Black African Americans 21%, Hispanic or Latino 25%, other races 14%. So white people, y'all get assistance more than anybody. Yes, I know it's more of you, but you still get a large percentage of it is you on these programs, no matter how you want to put it. Now, the temporary financial assistance to low-income families, whites make up 43%, Hispanic or Latino 26%, Black or African American 23%. These statistics highlight that while government assistance programs are utilized by individuals across all racial and ethnic groups, participation rates differ, reflecting underlying socioeconomic disparities. All right, so I just wanted to put that in perspective. The talking points are always that we minorities and immigrants are all here and we're all on public assistance. No, I mean, it's a large percentage of us that are, because there's such a disparity in wages and things of that nature. But white people, you still are the leader. Just want to throw that out. All right, let's get to the topic at hand. SignalGate. SignalGate. All right, so let me just tell you what SignalGate is. We're going to go through this whole thing of how this kind of came in to fruition, and then I'll let you listen to some of the things that happens with it. So let's see. SignalGate is released. Let's listen to this one from CNN.
Huge revelations in this, and they certainly, how would you describe what you're seeing in the text messages?
These are shockingly detailed descriptions of the bombs that are about to fall in Yemen, and Jeffrey Goldberg is getting these details many minutes before the bombs fall. If this is not classified information, I would like the president to tell us what would count as classified information. Now, The Atlantic is publishing this on theatlantic.com because Trump and his aides have said that none of this is classified. That has been the main defense from the Trump White House in the past 2 days, that these text messages were a mistake. Goldberg never should have seen them, but nothing was classified. Nobody was in any danger. That's the argument we've heard advanced. Because of that argument, Goldberg went back to his colleagues and talked with his lawyers at The Atlantic, and they decided to go ahead and publish the text messages that they had originally withheld. Remember, Goldberg withheld some of this information because he thought it could risk national security, because it could have put U.S. military members in harm's way. So now he's decided to go ahead and publish the full unredacted text message chain with one omission. He is still withholding the name of a CIA employee because the CIA has asked him to do so. So that is notable. There still is something in these messages that is considered so sensitive that the Atlantic is choosing not to publish it. But the headline here is that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth did send detailed descriptions of the military strike in Yemen to this group ahead of time. Goldberg was able to read these messages ahead of time. He looked at it and didn't know if it was real or not, but then he looked on social media and saw that the bombs were beginning to fall in Yemen.
All right, so let's just do a summary. So if you haven't heard about this, I don't know where you are that you haven't heard about it. Jeffrey Goldberg, I think his name is Jeffrey Goldberg. He is the editor-in-chief of Atlantic magazine. All right, Trump hates him. They hate the magazine. They say it's leftist, the whole bit, whatever. Anyway, Signal is a program, guys. Think of your chat on your phone, all right? When you have a group chat, yes, a lot of us have family chats and friend chats and high school chats, frats, whatever. You have chat groups, right? So Signal is a encrypted program, but it's not secure, not government secure. It's an encrypted program where you can set a time release so that whatever's in this chat, it will automatically disappear. It will no longer be in the app after a set time. So what they did, Mike Waltz, who is the National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, he set up the Signal chat. and he put in all of the high-ranking National Security Administration, including the Department of Defense, Secretary Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Mike Waltz, Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance. I mean, everybody's in it. All these top officials. And if you remember the whole thing with Hillary Clinton and the emails talking about high security items that are not on a secure server is a big no-no. So now we have a Signal app, a social media app that anybody could have got pulled into. And they're discussing war plans. All right? So that's the stage. And then the argument is that they're saying that this stuff is not classified. But when you read it, I'm sorry. It sounds pretty classified to me. It's not anything I would want to put out on anything. So Goldberg released the text message, but he kept the sensitive data that he thought that would be harmful. They shouldn't do it. And he just only put a few just to show that he was in the chat group. So it turns out they started calling him all kinds of names, everything under the sun. And he's a cheat and he did something crazy or he manipulated the app, whatever. So, and since they kept saying that this is not classified data, then everybody was going, well, go ahead and release them. Go ahead and release them then. Why don't you just tell us what they were if they're not classified? And nobody would do it. So to save himself, and plus they said they weren't classified, he went ahead and released all of them. So America has read them all. So let's listen to Erin Burnett and hear what she has to say on this subject. Erin Burnett is from CNN. Here we go.
Breaking news. Trump mocking an extraordinary security breach. Moments ago, reposting a message from Elon Musk saying, quote, best place to hide a dead body is page 2 of The Atlantic magazine. That post mocking a shocking security breach by Trump's national security advisor, defense secretary, secretary of state, and vice president. Well, here's what happened. Mike Waltz, Trump's national security advisor, apparently accidentally added the Atlantic journalist Jeffrey Goldberg to a top secret group chat on Signal, a group chat about an American attack on a foreign adversary. So it's top secret, except for they put a reporter in it. Then they went on to detail classified information about a U.S. missile attack before they did it. According to Goldberg, it all started when he received a request to connect with Michael Waltz. Goldberg accepted. He was unsure whether this was real, whether this is really Trump's national security advisor or someone masquerading as Waltz, so he clicks yes. And then the group starts to get active. 2 days later, Goldberg is included in a group chat called Houthi PC Small Group. So Waltz requests him as a contact, then adds him into this group. And the first message comes in from what appears to be Waltz's account to the group. Team establishing a principals group for coordination on Houthis, particularly for over the next 72 hours. And then that's when it got hot in there. According to Goldberg, 18 members of Trump administration were added to this chat. And in that group, Vice President Vance, Defense Secretary Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, the Secretary of State, the Director of National Intelligence, CIA Director, Chief of Staff, they're all in the group chat. And Friday morning, Goldberg says the account linked to Waltz texts the group again. Team, you should have a statement of conclusions with taskings per the president's guidance this morning in your high side inboxes. Now, high side refers to a classified communication system. But of course, then they started to talk about all this stuff in the group. The account labeled Vance responds in part, I think we're making a mistake. I'm not so sure the president's aware how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now. There's some more back and forth with various parties. And then what we're going to show you here is a screenshot of some of the messages that followed. Vance says, if you think we should do it, let's go. I just hate bailing Europe out again. Let's just make sure our messaging is tight there. Hegseth replies, I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's all caps pathetic. But Mike is correct. We're the only ones on the planet who can do this. Stephen Miller chimes in, as I heard it, the president was clear, green light. So then Saturday, March 15th rolls around in the morning. The account labeled Hegseth posts, quote, team update. And it is then that, according to Goldberg, the Secretary of Defense of the United States of America posted confidential information about targets and weapons that the U.S. would use in the attack. And 2 hours later, the U.S. did indeed do just that and struck Yemen.
So Erin put it down very well, and that was a great timeline as to what happened. All right. So stage is set, right? So then we go on, and then Let's see. And then they asked then Caitlin Collins, she asked Donald Trump about it. All right. So let's listen to dear President Trump and Caitlin Collins, who does a wonderful job as the White House, chief White House correspondent for CNN. And let's listen to what Caitlin asked him and watch how he just kind of dodged. He kind of looks like, though, he really don't know. So these bozos didn't even tell him. But let's see. And the word on the street is behind closed doors. He was pretty upset about it. But let's listen.
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
With the Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis? Right. Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time.
So you heard the president's words there, and he certainly looks like he is hearing about this for the first time. However, if that is true, that certainly raises many questions of a different kind. That the story has been out for more than 2 hours at that point when he spoke there. And if he was not briefed on it, that is also very interesting. We know this president is someone who receives news often by watching television on his own, by looking at the social media on his own. He's been a big critic of The Atlantic, but he said he didn't know about it. We will see if that continues. But the bottom line here is the White House is reviewing how Jeffrey Goldberg got added to this chain and also reviewing whether this type of conversation should have been on this chain in the first place.
All right, so I said Caitlin Collins. It wasn't Caitlin. That was just a CNN briefing. So listen to that. And so now the stage, so Trump goes, I don't know anything about it. And just as the reporter said, he didn't look like he knew anything about it, right? So Trump is probably boiling, because he has to know everything. He has to be in control, right? This is probably making him just boil. Let me listen to Caitlin. She's talking to Goldberg, and let's listen to what she's saying here. Here we go.
Nobody was texting war plans. Given you were privy to this group chat, is that how you saw it?
No, that's a lie. He was texting war plans. He was texting attack plans. When targets were going to be targeted, how they were going to be targeted, who was at the targets, when the next sequence of attacks were happening. I didn't publish this, and I continue not to publish it because it felt like it was too confidential, too technical, and I worry, honestly, that sharing that kind of information in public could endanger American military personnel. But no, they were plans for the attack. They were texted before the attack.
And there were things texted that you viewed as so sensitive, you did not even publish them in your report today.
I made the decision that the technical aspects of this, including what kinds of weapons packages, the attack sequencing, and so on, that's not necessarily in the public interest. What's in the public interest is that they were running a war plan on a messaging app and didn't even know who was invited into the conversation. I mean, it's an obvious, ridiculous security breach. And, he if you notice, he didn't actually answer the question.
He didn't answer the question. So somewhere along the way, guys, let's just stay with me. Somebody's probably briefed him. Trump's probably has blown up by now. So now he's going to join the whole cover up. Okay. Like they all been talking about. It's not anything classified. So they think we're really dumb. Okay. They think Americans are really dumb. We're just that dumb. And when we read the things, you will see just how much information was in this text string. So let's listen to dear Mr. Trump join in with the crap. Here we go.
Mr. President, are you going to change any of the practices that your national security officials used after a reporter was inadvertently added to a group chat about attacks on Yemen?
Well, I think it's a question I've been asked now, and I've given a few answers, and they've all been the same. We have an amazing group. Our national security now is stronger than it's ever been. We have had a very, very successful, numerous attacks on that area. These are people that shoot down ships, not only our ships, ships all over the world. They're shooting down right out of the water and damaging them badly, or they're going down. They're also shooting anything that happens to be flying in the area. We hit them very, very hard. There was no classified information, as I understand it. They used a app, if you want to call it an app, that a lot of people use, a lot of people in government use, a lot of people in the media use. And I think I'll ask Mike. Mike is here. Do you want to respond to that, please?
Yes, Mr. President. You asked about lessons. I think there's a lot of journalists in this city who have made big names for themselves, making up lies about this president, whether it's the Russia hoax or making up lies about Gold Star families. And this one in particular, I've never met, don't know, never communicated with, and we are looking into and reviewing how the heck he got into this room. But I'll tell you what, the world owes President Trump.
All right, the way he got in there, guys. This is the culprit. National Security Advisor Mike Walls. You're the one that put him in there, buddy boy. And trying to play it down like, how did he get in there? He got hacked. No, you did it. All right, let's go on.
A favor. Under Biden, global shipping was shut down. Pinprick attacks, months between them, our destroyers being fired upon dozens of times. President Trump took decisive action with his national security team, took out the head missileer, knocked out missiles, knocked out headquarters, knocked out communication sites. And for once, as we hear, as you all hear from every one of our allies, thank God for American leadership again. Thank God for American strength. You're welcome, world. We had a national security team that was coordinating these efforts. As Director Radcliffe testified today, his first day on the job, he was introduced to this app on his government systems at the CIA and at the State Department and otherwise. So, look, this journalist, Mr. President, wants the world talking about more hoaxes and this kind of nonsense rather than the freedom that you're enabling. And a key part of our sovereignty is open sea lanes and knocking the crap out of terrorists, which is exactly what your team and Pete Hegseth, a good friend and fellow veteran, is leading the charge on, and it's an honor.
We had a very very successful evening, and we've had numerous successful evenings and days in that area. The Houthis are absolutely on the run. The worst of them has been killed. This should have been done a long time ago by Biden, but Biden was an incompetent president. He couldn't do anything. He didn't know where he was going. He had no clue. This guy had no clue. This should have been done a long time ago, as they shoot missiles at ships, randomly shoot missiles at ships, and they make their own missiles. You know, this is not an incompetent group of people. They make their own missiles. They get the missiles also from Iran. It's an offshoot of Iran, another offshoot. You have Hamas, you have Hezbollah, you have the Houthis, you got a lot of stuff going on with Iran. And we sent a letter to Iran. You're going to have to be speaking to us one way or the other pretty soon, because we can't let this happen. But that's an app that a lot of people use. And somebody got on. I mean, I happen to know the guy's a total sleazebag. The Atlantic is a failed magazine. Does very, very poorly. Nobody gives a damn about it. This gives it a little bit of a shot. And I will tell you this, that they've made up more stories, and they're just a failing magazine. The public understands that. He's a very good man. That man is a very good man right there that you criticize so strongly. He's a very good man, and he will continue to do a good job. In addition to him, we had very good people in that meeting, and those people have done a very, very effective job, and you're going to see it. And it goes on, by the way. It's going to go on. And I think the Houthis wish that it didn't happen, but that's what it's all about. We have to create a safe country, a safe world, and that's what we're doing.
All right, so did y'all get that spin? Did y'all get the spin on that? You get the spin. All right, so let's just put this into context. Sure, people make mistakes. I've made mistakes at jobs that were kind of crazy and had to own up to it or whatever. But the words are, I owned up to them. All right. So this is not your normal mistake. Had someone been in this chat. I mean, y'all have done WhatsApp and how they can pull you into a group. This stuff is not secure, not for medical secrets. I mean, this guy was giving line by line as to what they were going to do, who they were going after, all kinds of crap. If that got into the wrong hands, American soldiers would have been met with an ambush. People would have died. Now, this should not be a red, blue, left, right issue. The reason this is such a big issue is because there have been people that have been confirmed in these positions that are not qualified. I'm not saying that Mike Waltz is not qualified because he made a bad decision, but Pete Hegseth, who's the one that actually printed the confidential information, the secure information that should not have been printed, he opted to put it out there. Now, that's the one, if anybody, even though Mike Waltz is the one that pulled the guy in there, Pete Hegseth is the one I think should lose his job. He should lose his job for this because he was never qualified to begin with. And there's also been word that in all of these top secret meetings, he's been bringing his wife. She is sitting in the conference room, probably in the corner, drinking coffee. What the hell she's doing there, I have no idea. She's sitting in top secret meetings getting information that she does not have clearance for and should not be hearing. So this guy doesn't have a clue. He doesn't have a clue. We knew that. Trump knew that for a minute. At first, they were not going to actually confirm him because he had so much junk. And the guy's a past drunk. Can you imagine being a past alcoholic? You know, there's a lot of pressure on you for a lot of things, right? And it's not a pretty thing to be an alcoholic by any means. And he says he's been sober and whatever, probably going to the plan or whatever. I don't know. But think about it. That kind of pressure on you could cause you to go back to drinking. That you're doing things like that. Who knows? He always looks to me very much like he's lit. And that's just my own observation. He always looks a little lit. And I don't know. But if anybody should go down for this, I think it should be him. Now, let me just tell you this. Where is the other deal here on what is going on with that? So I'm trying to find the, here it is. Department of Homeland Security person. All right. So let me show you this. This is what's crazy. So forget about the emails that they crucified Hillary about because they don't care about that. So there's like double standards here. But this is happening like right now. Let me read this to you. A Department of Homeland Security advisor in Denver mistakenly added someone to an email that she shouldn't have added. And she ended up calling the reporter or whoever it was, a reporter. And the reporter said he wouldn't do anything or print anything. So she was able to get it back, or we don't know who it is. But get this. This person was put on disciplinary action and everything. And he's probably going to be fired, he or she. But they're keeping this under wraps. Because they were able to catch whatever they put out there. They had sensitive information, but it was not top secret by any means or classified. Pete Hegseth, he put the war plans out there, time by time, step by step. Who's going to get killed? Everything. Do you see what I'm saying? So they have kept this under lock and key, and they won't even give us who the name of the person is. We can't even find out. But they've been reprimanded. Has anybody been reprimanded under this committee? You cannot under this one from SignalGate. No one has. And dear Pam Bondi, who signed an oath of office, I'm raising my hand, listeners, to protect and serve the Constitution of the United States of America. She's not supposed to be in Trump's pocket, but she is. So you can't count on the Attorney General to go after any wrongdoing for Trump. Let's just put that away. She's not going to do it. And she lied under oath. And she should be put away for that. So that's what happened on that. So that's the hypocrisy that's going on with the SignalGate. Now, that everything has happened, Senate says, we want some answers. So they call them to be questioned. And we're going to look at Tulsi Gabbard, who just totally is the world's worst at lying. I think she's a spy, ask me. I mean, there's certain things she has just cuddled up to too many dictators. Why? What are you doing? You're not a congressman anymore. You're now a national security person. But why do you cuddle up to so many dictators and say, I just don't trust her? But listen to this questioning to her from the Senate panel.
Director Gabbard, did you participate in the group chat with Secretary of Defense and other Trump senior officials discussing the Yemen war plans?
Senator, I don't want to get into the specifics.
Ma'am, were you on? You're not going to be willing to address. So you're not. Are you denying? Matt, will you answer my question, ma'am? You were not TG on this group chat.
I'm not going to get into the specifics.
So you refuse to acknowledge whether you were on this group chat.
Senator, I'm not going to get into the specifics.
Why are you going to get into the specifics? Is it because it's all classified?
Because this is currently under review by the National Security
Because
Council.
it's all classified? If it's not classified, share the text now.
As the White House previously
Is it classified or non-classified information on this text?
I can confirm.
Director Radcliffe, were you on the group chat?
Senator, I was on a Signal messaging group.
So you were the John Ratcliffe on that chat?
I was.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I provide some context, Senator, to that?
Yes, but I've got a series of questions.
Well, but I think it's important because at the outset, you made a couple of comments about Signal messaging using encrypted apps. So that we're clear, one of the first things that happened when I was confirmed as CIA director was Signal was loaded onto my computer at the CIA, as it is for most CIA officers. One of the things that I was briefed on very early, Senator, was by the CIA records management folks about the use of Signal as a permissible work use. It is. That is a practice that preceded the current administration to the Biden administration.
Director Ratcliffe, I've got a series of questions. If you're making the statement that Signal is a secure channel.
No, can I answer that? It is.
I've got a series
end-to-end decryption. So to finish,
I understand encryption.
It is permissible to use to communicate and coordinate for work purposes, provided, Senator, that any decisions that are made are also recorded through formal channels. Right. So those were procedures that were implemented. My staff implemented those processes, followed those processes, complied with those processes, and finally, just please. So my communications, to be clear, in a Signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful and did not include classified information.
Well, we will make that determination, because if it's not classified, share the text with the committee. Let me go on. Director Gabbard, you are the security executive and set access guidelines for classified information. Did you contact the defense secretary or others after this specific military planning was put out and say, hey, we should be doing this in a SCIF?
There was no classified material that was shared in that.
So then
Signal
if there was no classified material, share it with the committee. You can't have it both ways. These are important jobs. This is our national security. Bobbing and weaving and trying to, filibuster your answer. So please answer the question. If this was Director Gabbard, if this was a rank and file intelligence officer who did this kind of careless behavior, what would you do with them?
Senator, I'll reiterate that there was no classified material that was shared in that.
Ma'am, if there's no classified materials, share. And then if there's no classified materials, then you can't even answer the question whether you're on the chat.
So you said Tulsi Gabbard, she kept saying that like it was like, she almost was saying, I plead the fifth. But every time he asked them, then share the text, share it. Quiet, crickets, quick crickets. So that was the day before. But after Goldberg released them himself and everybody read them, then they were scared because they didn't think that he would do that, because they know that Democrat types and liberals, we do a lot of things, but we don't play what they play. We always take the high ground. But they were bad mouthing him so bad, calling his journalism this and that and saying that he was hacking whatever. He released him, and I don't blame him. And they were brought back the next day, and guys, they were actually just hammered. And now even a judge has requested that they retain all records, do not destroy anything until this thing is done. Somebody's going to have to make an account of this. They're going to have to make an account. And they want this story to go away. So they're going to try to deflect anything they can to make the story go away. But the journalists are not letting it go. And they shouldn't. This is not a right-left issue, guys. This is a safety issue of the United States. Plans like that could cause them to come and bomb. No, who knows? Who knows what else Pete Hegseth has done that is not of a secure nature? We don't know. And you can come at me all you want, because there's nothing you can say that this man is qualified to be the Secretary of Defense. He is not. Barely got confirmed, and he needs to be fired. Even though Mike Waltz is the one that started the chat, Pete Hegseth is the one that needs to be fired. Yes, and they kind of throw him under the bus the next day. They all start throwing him under the bus. But what I want to play now, guys, is the signal feed that he released. And what they have done here is they have put AI voices where there's going to be a different voice for each person on the chat. And then you can hear what the actual chat says. And those of you that are watching on my YouTube channel, you'll see the actual chats on the screen. But listen to the different voices, and that would recognize, and that will let you know that it's a different personnel that's talking that was on the chat. So let's listen to this, and they'll give you the names whenever someone is speaking, and then we'll get down to the dirty part where there actually are the plans. All right, so here we go.
Team. Establishing a principals group for coordination on Houthis, particularly for over the next 72 hours. My deputy Alex Wong is pulling together a tiger team at deputy/agency chief of staff level, following up from the meeting in the sit room this morning for action items, and we'll be sending that out later this evening. Please provide the best staff POC from your team for us to coordinate with over the next couple days and over the weekend. Thanks.
Mike Needham for State. Andy Baker for VP.
Joe Kent for DNI.
Dan Katz for Treasury.
Dan Caldwell for DOD.
Brian McCormick for NSC.
Team. You should have a statement of conclusions with taskings per the President's guidance this morning in your high side inboxes. State and DOD. We developed suggested notification lists for regional allies and partners. Joint Staff is sending this AM a more specific sequence of events in the coming days, and we will work with DOD to ensure COS, OVP, and POTUS are briefed.
Team, I am out for the day doing an economic event in Michigan, but I think we are making a mistake. 3% of U.S. trade runs through the Suez. 40% of European trade does. There is a real risk that the public doesn't understand this, or why it's necessary. The strongest reason to do this is, as POTUS said, to send a message. But I am not sure the President is aware how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now. There's a further risk that we see a moderate to severe spike in oil prices. I am willing to support the consensus of the team and keep these concerns to myself. But there is a strong argument for delaying this a month, doing the messaging work on why this matters, seeing where the economy is, etc.
There is nothing time-sensitive driving the timeline. We'll have the exact same options in a month. The Israelis will likely take strikes and therefore ask us for more support to replenish whatever they use against the Houthis. But that's a minor factor. I will send you the unclassed data we pulled on BAM shipping.
From CIA perspective, we are mobilizing assets to support now, but a delay would not negatively impact us, and additional time would be used to identify better starting points for coverage on Houthi leadership.
VP, I understand your concerns and fully support you raising with POTUS. Important considerations: most of which are tough to know how they play out. Economy, Ukraine, peace, Gaza, etc. I think messaging is going to be tough no matter what. Nobody knows who the Houthis are, which is why we would need to stay focused on 1. Biden failed, and 2. Iran funded. Waiting a few weeks or a month does not fundamentally change the calculus. 2 immediate risks on waiting. 1. This leaks, and we look indecisive. 2. Israel takes an action first, or Gaza ceasefire falls apart, and we don't get to start this on our own terms. We can manage both. We are prepared to execute, and if I had final go or no-go vote, I believe we should. This, not about the Houthis. I see it as 2 things. 1. Restoring freedom of navigation, a core national interest, and 2. Re-establish deterrence, which Biden cratered. But we can easily pause. And if we do, I will do all we can to enforce 100% OPSEC. I welcome other thoughts.
The trade figures we have are 15% of global and 30% of container. It's difficult to break that down to U.S. specific because much of the container, either going through the Red Sea still or around the Cape of Good Hope, are components going to Europe that turns into manufactured goods for transatlantic trade to the United States. Whether we pull the plug or not today, European navies do not have the capability to defend against the types of sophisticated anti-ship, cruise missiles, and drones the Houthis are now using. So whether it's now or several weeks from now, it will have to be the United States that reopens these shipping lanes. Per the President's request, we are working with DoD and state to determine how to compile the cost associated and levy them on the Europeans. As we stated in the first PC, we have a fundamental decision of allowing the sea lanes to remain closed or to reopen them now or later. We are the only ones with the capability, unfortunately. From a messaging standpoint, we absolutely add this to of horribles on why the Europeans must invest in their defense.
At Pete Hegseth, if you think we should do it, let's go. I just hate bailing Europe out again. Let's just make sure our messaging is tight here. And if there are things we can do up front to minimize risk to Saudi oil facilities, we should do it.
VP, I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's pathetic. But Mike is correct. We are the only ones on the planet, on our side of the ledger, who can do this. Nobody else even close. Question is timing. I feel like now's as good a time as any, given POTUS' directive to reopen shipping lanes. I think we should go, but POTUS still retains 24 hours of decision space.
As I heard it, the president was clear. Green light, but we soon make clear to Egypt and Europe what we expect in return. We also need to figure out how to enforce such a requirement. E.g., if Europe doesn't remunerate, then what? If the U.S. successfully restores freedom of navigation at great cost, there needs to be some further economic gain extracted in return.
Agree. Team update. Time now. 1144 ET. Weather is favorable. Just confirmed with CENTCOM, we are a go for mission launch. 1215 ET. F-18's launch. First strike package. 1345. Trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. Also, strike drones launch. MQ-9s. 1410. More F-18s launch. Second strike package. 1415. Strike drones on target. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop, pending earlier trigger-based targets. 1536. F-18 second strike starts. Also, first sea-based Tomahawks launched. More to follow per timeline. We are currently clean on OPSEC. Godspeed to our warriors.
I will say a prayer for victory.
VP, building collapsed. Had multiple positive ID. Pete, Kurilla, the IC, amazing job.
What?
Typing too fast. The first target, their top missile guy, we had positive ID of him walking into his girlfriend's building and it's now collapsed.
Excellent.
A good start.
Good job, Pete, and your team.
The team and MAL did a great job as well.
Great work all. Powerful start.
CENTCOM is on point. Great job all. More strikes ongoing for hours tonight, and will provide full initial report tomorrow. But on time, on target, and good readouts so far.
Kudos to all, most particularly those in theater and CENTCOM. Really great. God bless.
Great work and effects.
All right, I can see why Tulsi Gabbard was so upset, though. She only said one word, great works in effect, but she has a high-ranking position. So what do you think? You heard all of that? That whole section from Pete Hegseth telling you bomb strike, whatever. They said that's not classified information. But I'm sorry, if that was put in the hands of one of our adversaries or somebody who wasn't Jeff Goldberg. Is his first name Jeff? I hope it is, because I'm sounding like Jeff. I mean, if that was the case, what could have happened? So you decide for yourself. And you got all these people saying that. But think about it, guys. If this had been the Democrats, they would have been hogtied and fried and just about killed by now. And they'd be calling for impeachment. So don't play with us. We're not dumb. And I hope the news stays on this story. Stay on this story until there's accountability. Now, here's what I'm showing that's really going to help this particular issue for them to do some accountability. All they had to do was say, I goofed. We made a mistake. We won't do it again. But no, you want to spin it. Try to blame the editor. And then turn around and say that it's not classified. Like we're some dummies. We're not stupid. We are not stupid. That sounds pretty classified to me. Not anything I want to know about as to when you're going to bomb somebody and you're having surveillance of his girl. All of that was chilling. Very chilling. So they think this is just a Democratic Republican issue, but no, it's crossing the aisles. It is definitely crossing the aisles. People in general feel like this was a flub up. And it doesn't matter what side of the aisle they are politically. So this next little TikTok video that I'm going to play is from podcaster Dave Portnoy, who is a devout Trump supporter. But he's also a matter-of-fact guy who doesn't care about saying anything. And he's not afraid of what Trump thinks. So he's telling the truth. So I want you to listen to his rant. Now, this is what's going to make a difference. With people on the right will call this for what it is. Put away your little red MAGA hat. And just tell the truth. Tell the truth so they can be held accountable for what they did here. If this had been a rank and file person, they would have been fired and gone. And y'all know they would have. So let's listen to Dear Dave Portnoy rant. Him and I agree on nothing. Because he's a Trump supporter and he's just loudmouth and I don't know. He's part of the reason they helped Trump get elected. So let's listen to his rant. I am in agreement with everything he's saying here.
A bunch of them, very successful by all nature, opened up like the passageway for ships and cargo ships that were being terrorized. So successful attack. Well, comes out after the fact that Jeffrey Goldberg, who's the editor of The Atlantic. The Atlantic is a magazine that basically hates Trump, hates the left, hates people like me. Think Business Insider, think New York Times, think New York Magazine, all the heavy left-leaning media organizations. The Atlantic is one of them. Like, I hate them. Trump hates them. They hate Trump. They probably hate me. So the editor, Jeffrey Goldberg, comes out after. He's like, hey, morons, you guys included me on a Signal group chat with sensitive classified information discussing the Houthis attack before it happened. Pete Hegseth's immediate reaction is like, no, that never happened. We didn't leak any classified information. No classified information in there. And Jeffrey Goldberg released all the text in the Signal group chat. And guess what? It's super sensitive. It's super classified. It's surreal that these guys added Jeffrey Goldberg to this group chat. I mean, they were talking about the attack, leading up to the attack, all the way to a couple hours, when they're going to do it, the time, the weather, you name it. And if this information somehow got out to the Houthis, and I assume in situations like this, things move at the speed of light, lots of American soldiers could have died, lives in jeopardy. So to me, a major, major, major glitch in intelligence and just a huge mistake. It looked like Michael Waltz, the national security advisor to the president, added Jeffrey Goldberg to the group chat by accident, and J.D. Vance is in it. It looks like he added him by accident. And listen, we've all texted the wrong person. We've all emailed the wrong person. We've all had somebody who shouldn't be in a group chat in our lives. We are not the Secretary of Defense. We're not the National Security Advisor. We're not the Vice President of the United States. So, yeah, mistakes happen. This one can't. Here's my biggest issue with this. And this is in politics in general. The reaction of like Pete Hegseth and President Trump has been to kind of poo-poo it. Be like, there was no classified information in there. Trump's like, how did Jeffrey Goldberg get in there? Like, did he hack it? Did he get in there? He didn't stay very long. The Atlantic is a horrible organization and a terrible magazine, which they are, and I hate them. And by the way, if Jeffrey Goldberg, he didn't hack it, he got added, but if he did hack it, that's almost more dangerous than somebody like Jeffrey Goldberg. If he can hack the most sensitive group chats, what are our enemies doing? Trump, I get being loyal to your people. I don't like firing people on innocent mistakes that they make, but this, and I've seen a lot of people be like, oh, you're mad about this, but we had a president like Biden with dementia who had the nuclear codes. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. That wasn't right then, and this isn't right now. In this new administration, you want to take accountability. Trump, you may love Michael Waltz. You love Pete Hegseth. You may love these guys. Somebody has to go down. To me, it's Michael Waltz. He's the one who added him to this conversation. But you can't have the top of the top security people in the United States with the most sensitive information in the world adding random editors of a magazine that hates Trump's guts to a group chat talking about an attack before it happens on a terrorist group. You can't poo-poo it. You can't downplay it. You have to sit up there and be like, holy shit, this is a fuck up of epic proportions. There will be accountability. I will get to the bottom of this. And frankly, I think I don't like calling for people's heads. Michael Waltz, it seems like you're the guy who added him to the group chat. You have to lose your job. You should step down. You cannot be adding random people to a group chat with this sensitive classified information. Just be like, oh no, poo-poo. It's on him. He should have left the group chat instantly. This guy shouldn't have stayed in. It's on Jeffrey Goldberg for not immediately being like, hey, I should be here. No. It's on you for adding him. And this has to be something that, and this is why I hate politics, you have to stand up here and be like, what a fuck up. I will demand answers, accountability in the heads. I don't care if you're right, left. There's nothing being made up here. Jeffrey Goldberg is telling the truth. It's obvious these texts are real. It's obvious they're classified. It's obvious we gave away the strike information 2 hours before it happened. We're lucky it didn't cause the death of American military members. Somebody has to go down for this. This is a mistake. This isn't a Barstool mistake where you let an idiot hang around like Mitzi. This is a mistake that can't happen twice. It cannot happen once. So you have to make a change and show it'll never happen. And these are the top intel guys that we have in the country. Adding a rando, the editor of the Atlantic, to the most sensitive group chat in the world, somebody's got to go down. That's just the facts. You can't poo-poo this.
Can't poo-poo this. That is right, podcaster Dave Portnoy. If y'all want to go follow him and listen to some of his stuff, you can do that if you want to. But that's probably the last time him and I will ever be together or talking about. So that's what he thought, guys. Isn't that cool? I love it. All right, so now let's go over to my girl Joy Reid. Joy has a great perspective on what is going on in this country right now. But let me button up the SignalGate thing. That fight still goes on, guys. So if you don't understand what's going on, you can listen to all of the footage that's been on there to find something that you can understand what is going on with that whole SignalGate. It's not something we're just going to throw away under the table. No, that was important. And some guys messed up, and somebody needs to pay. All right, so let's listen to Joy. Here we go.
Hey, guys. So I think it's very important for you to understand that there are very, very wealthy people in America who have never believed that there should have ever been income taxes, which have only existed since 1913, since the Woodrow Wilson administration. That they have never believed that there should have ever been Social Security benefits, retirement benefits for elderly people paid for through taxes, right? Through a special income tax. That there should have ever been an extension of the Social Security Act during the 1960s, during the Lyndon Johnson administration, to add old age health care, Medicare, or that there should have ever been, also during the Lyndon Johnson administration, the creation of poverty level medication access, right? Medical access, meaning Medicaid, which is medical care for the poor. They've never believed those things should exist. They fundamentally do not believe income taxes should exist. They think they're unconstitutional. They've never believed they should exist. They've never believed Social Security should exist. They've never believed Medicare or Medicaid should exist, and that all of the anti-poverty programs that flow from that, food stamps, Meals on Wheels, Head Start for kids, which is free preschool for kids, they don't think any of that should exist because they fundamentally don't believe income taxes should exist. They believe that the super rich, that wealthy people should keep all of their income and not have their income taxed, period. And that people who are poor should just figure it out. And that people who can't pay for health care up front with cash should just figure it out. Maybe barter with your doctor to get health care. They genuinely believe this. I've interviewed these people. I have talked to these people. They believe it with all sincerity, and that what is evil in their mind is the creation of the income tax, is the creation of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, Head Start, food stamps, any anti-poverty programs. They just don't believe they should exist. And throughout the 20th century, they have tried to stop these things from becoming law, but they could not defeat Roosevelt or Lyndon Baines Johnson because both of those two Democratic presidents had Democratic supermajority Congresses with more than 60 votes, and they were able to pass it. And Barack Obama also had 60 votes in the Senate that were able to pass it. 60 votes in the Senate is the magic number. And so because FDR, LBJ, and Barack Obama had 60 Democratic votes in the Senate, they were able to pass those anti-poverty programs. But these conservatives have never believed these things should exist. But the problem is, once they did exist, these things have always been very popular with ordinary people because these prevented poverty and sickness and early death. So getting rid of these things has been a 100-year project. How to get ordinary Americans to allow the super rich to get rid of anti-poverty programs, to get rid of taxes on the wealthy, to allow the wealthy to return to the Gilded Age status where they could earn and rake in money tax-free. How to return to the Gilded Age, the McKinley era. They figured out how to do it. They've created popular movements, the Tea Party and MAGA, that get ordinary Americans to affirmatively vote to get rid of and end the anti-poverty programs that help their own parents, grandparents, and themselves. They've gotten people to sign up for, affirmatively, to get rid of all of the supports that keep their own families afloat. How do they get them to do that? race. Get them to believe that anti-poverty programs only help Black people. It's the magic wand that you can always wave in America. Get people to believe that anti-poverty programs only help Black people or any other marginalized group. Get people to focus on marginalized minorities, Black people, non-white immigrants, LGBTQ people, trans kids who play sports. Find a marginalized group. Get people to whip up in anger against that group, and then you can take away their programs. That's always been the plan. They're implementing it now, and they're just calling it Project 2025. It's nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun. This is why I often say that these people want to repeal the 20th century, because keep in mind, none of these things existed before the 20th century. There was no income tax when America was founded.
All right, I'm going to stop it right there. So she gives a great history lesson on income tax. I didn't realize it started when it started, but that is where they're trying to take this country back to, that Gilded Age where none of these things existed. Neither did some of the things that existed for us either. Those are not good ages. Those guys, you have to remember, we didn't start getting any kind of liberty or equality until the late 60s. The late 60s. Yeah, so you have to understand that's why the fight is going on. All right, so let's see. What else has been going on this week? And one of the things that I saw going on this week is a lot of people are going into protest. Bernie Sanders is out there on his tour, him and AOC. I feel kind of lukewarm about what they're doing, but listen to this TikToker on Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris. Bernie Sanders, yes, hold on.
Some of you are going to hate me for saying this, and it's probably because you already hate me, so I'm just going to fucking say it. I tuned into Bernie's Fight the Oligarchy tour. Great speech. Awesome. He is not saying anything that Kamala Harris didn't say on the fucking campaign trail. Like, yes, he's saying the word oligarchy out loud, but like, Kamala Harris said fascism. Kamala Harris said wannabe dictator. Kamala Harris mentioned the billionaire class that Donald Trump was wanting to give tax cuts to, and not the working class people that she was trying to focus on. Like, I am glad that people are energized by Bernie, but it really just is like, why the fuck did you need an old ass white man to say that while we were actively under duress? Why couldn't you listen to a Black woman trying to tell you that an active threat was right there and that she was the answer to stop it? Why couldn't you believe her? Why did you want to feel the pain of another Trump presidency? Why did you denigrate her, delegitimize her, write her off completely, and like actively invite the bullshit that we have now? Are you really just that desperate to have a white man in power and then to have a white man tell you to fight that other white man in power? You would rather have that scenario where we're all suffering so we can just look at which white man to cheer on instead of putting a Black woman in charge? That's really what it fucking feels like. America is a ridiculous fucking country.
What say you? She has a point there. She has a point. But I want you to listen to this this interview that Donald Trump did on Fox News. And they're talking about reparations. Yes, reparations for the J6ers. Are you freaking kidding me? Reparations for the J6 people. Listen to this guy.
With as much truth as you about Ashley Babbitt. It was a bad shooting. My father can tell you that. Anybody.
It's a terrible thing.
I don't know if you know this, but the Department of Justice right now is still kind of fighting that case. The family of Ashley Babbitt is suing the government, wrongful death. The DOJ right now officially is still opposing that lawsuit, trying to justify it. Shouldn't that be something that can just be settled at this point?
Well, I'll look into that. I mean, you're just telling me that for the first time. I haven't heard that. I'm a big fan of Ashley Babbitt, okay? And Ashley Babbitt was a really good person who was a big MAGA fan, Trump fan, and she was innocently standing there. They even say trying to sort of hold back the crowd. And a man did something to her that was unthinkable when he shot her.
Excuse this little blip here.
And I think it's a disgrace. I'm going to look into that. I did not know that, no.
And the officer who shot her, Michael Byrd, is still on duty. They gave him a raise, and they gave him a medal, and I believe a promotion.
I think it's a disgrace.
He's a federal employee. Would you or could you do something about
I'm going to
that?
take a look at it. I'm going to look at that, too. His reputation was, I won't even say, let's find out about his reputation, okay? We're going to find out. But I watched that, and I saw that. And by the way, she was killed, but nobody else was killed. And, you know, the people that went down there, they had no guns. They didn't have guns. There was something to do with the FBI. There was something to do with Antifa and others, and it wasn't mentioned. And there's never been a group of people, I think, with the exception of maybe over the years, a couple of groups were treated pretty harshly, but essentially never treated so badly. And as you know, I let them out with pardons. I know you were very happy. I watch your show all the time. You were extremely happy about it. And plenty of other people were too. People don't realize this whole movement that we have is just it's a very inspiring thing, what's happened to our country. These people are incredible people. They were treated so unfairly, so horribly. Some of them didn't even go into the building. And the judges, the system, the hatred, the vitriol, the prosecutors, the way they wanted to destroy these people would go in and they'd be so proud to go before court, and they'd have a good lawyer, and they'd walk out of court like devastated the way they were treated, devastated, given years in prison. No, but I took care of them. I said I was going to, and I did.
Is there any talk of, because they lost opportunity, they lost income, any kind of compensation fund?
Well, there's talk about that. We have a lot of people talk about it. A lot of the people that are in government now talk about it because a lot of the people in government really like that group of people. They were patriots as far as I was concerned. I talk about them a lot. They were treated very unfairly. You know, the thing they show is
they were treated very unfairly. Do y'all hear that? Do I need to show you the insurrection video again, dear Donald? I keep it queued up here just in case I need to show it. Oh my God, this is just crazy. So let's see. I think I'm going to end the podcast tonight, and I'll pick up with the rest of them, the topics that I had. But I want to end tonight with Pastor Jamal Bryant of the church in Atlanta. He took over Eddie Long's church, and let you hear what he says on here. If I can find it. Here we go. Pastor Jamal Bryant from Atlanta.
I feel bad for the brown people who thought they were better than black people, who are now facing deportation. I feel bad for the white women who didn't realize they were the real DEI hires and were going to lose their job. I feel bad for Columbia and Emory and Johns Hopkins losing $300, $400, and $800 million, but HBCUs ain't never had that kind of money. I feel bad for the Tesla dealerships that got to close because they lost $900 billion since December because they forgot it ain't electricity, it's people that power this nation. I feel bad for them. A little bit, until I remember the words of that black sister with cornrows. Until you do right by me, nothing you do is gonna work. I tried to feel bad.
Nothing like a Baptist preacher to get you in perspective. That was really good, Pastor Jamal Bryant. So guys, that's what's going on with the SignalGate that's going on in the country. We must stay abreast. It has not gone away. A federal judge has asked for some information. There needs to be an investigation. Somebody needs to be fired. That's what I say. Somebody needs to be fired to show the strength of this administration. Otherwise, it's going to be crazy. Well, I hope you enjoyed tonight's podcast, and I will pick up tomorrow with a little bonus and finish this out. But I hope you have a wonderful day and keep talking. This is Carl E. Long from Let's Talk with Carl E. Long. Bye now.